Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
To remove your hatch trim panels, they need to be removed in order. You start with the top one, the ones on the sides, and then you can remove this large panel here. Start with this one. On the driver's side, the clip is not going straight in, it's actually clipping onto the sheet metal this way, so they have to push it up and off. This one's kind of worn out. There might be more force to get yours off, and then you'll go along and pop it out of the sheet metal. If it's hard to remove, you can use a plastic prying tool. You can get these from 1A Auto, and you can push it in here and help you pry it out. So there's a metal clip here and here. There's supposed to be one here, it's missing. Somebody probably had this off before. And then this clip here clips over the sheet metal this way because otherwise the wiring harness would be in the way. You can put that aside. This trim panel uses the same style clips. You pull down on it, pull it away from the hatch, and I'm also going to work it out from behind the bigger panel. If the metal clips stay inside the metal hatch panel, it's not a big deal. You can just make sure you push these back in over it when you put the trim panel back on. Remove the other side the same way. Pull it out of the clips, and then you'll have to work it underneath this one. So that metal clip came with it, but these two stayed, not a big deal. On the pull handle here, I'm going to remove this plastic cap using the plastic trim tool. Use a 10mm socket extension and a ratchet to remove this bolt. Take the grab handle out. Trim panel is held in with clips around the edge. You need to separate it from the door. Sometimes you can get your hand up here. If you can't, you can go back to your plastic trim tools, slide it in here, and then it'll help me pry it down. Usually once you get one free, you can start to work around the edge. You gotta pull it with some amount of force. It feels like you're gonna break it, but you're just popping the clips out of the metal. Sometimes the clips come loose, and those can be reused. I'm just gonna dump those out there. If the clips stay on the panel, it's not a big deal. We can take those out afterwards. To remove this rear trim, we'll go inside the door panel or hatch panel. Take a 10mm deep socket and remove this nut here that's on the stud. Use a 10mm socket to remove these nuts here. And you will need a universal joint which allows this to flex. I've got some electrical tape out of it, over it, so it stays a little stiffer, it's not just flopping over. And you'll have to get up in here and remove this 10mm bolt, 10mm nut. If it's too tight, you can loosen the window wiper motor. These are 10mm bolts. Just loosen them up. This will come down a little bit, just like that. You don't want to try to remove it because it's still attached to the wiper arm. But now you can slide this up in here and break this free. Get this nut out of here. This will pull down and out of here. You can pop the cable out and then feed it underneath and remove the handle. To remove your lock cylinder, you want to move this vibration damper out of the way. Connected to it is a harness that goes up to the plate lights, so we'll unplug that and pull it out of the way. It's easier to unbolt this and remove it and then unclip the harness from there. But you'll need to remove it because you can't quite access the 10mm bolts holding in the lock cylinder. This is only held in with 3 10mm bolts. It's easy to remove and just get out of their way. Break it free. I'm gonna hold on to it when I loosen this last one because it does have some weight to it. You can either let it hang by this, but it's kind of in the way, and then you can remove your lock cylinder, but I'm gonna get it out of the way. Just take needle nose pliers, push in the 2 tabs. And we'll put this aside. Just pull the lever off, so in this little yellow clip, you push it off with your finger, it'll unclip. Just like that, and then the lever comes right out. Put that aside. Remove the 2 10mm bolts. Pull the lock cylinder out. Use some needle nose pliers to squeeze together this white clip so it can be removed. Push it up at the same time. After I clipped it in. Get in here with the prying tool. And start to push it up. I go along with everything else removed. We're gonna get the same thing over here. Push this one together. And we'll hold it together, and then I'll push out on the garnish just like that. Now it's loose. I'm gonna carefully lower this down and grab onto it. Lift it off of the hatch. The harness or the license plate bulbs goes through. So I'm just gonna pull it out. I'm just gonna use a plastic prying tool to help me pry it up out of the body. And feed it out with the connector. And we take everything off. If you're replacing this entire garnish, now would be the time you could swap over your plate light assemblies. You just unscrew them, remove them, and put them in the new piece. These are fine, we're gonna reuse it, so I'm not gonna bother taking them out. Just to make sure this harness is popped in here so it sits nice and flush. Just like that. We'll lower this down. This little grommet went around here. I'm going to feed the wiring harness in. Push it through. And I can push this into place, line up all the holes. The white clips will temporarily hold it in place, and then we'll bolt it back in. Reinstall the door lock. The plate does have an angle to it. It's going to match the angle of the sheet metal in the hatch. So it's going to go in this way and fit nice and flush. Try to install it this way. It's going to be upside down. It won't fit right. Get it up in place. Get one of these bolts captured. Get the other one captured. Tighten these up. Not going to over tighten them. Get them snug and then go a tiny bit more. Put the rod back on here. This one slid all the way down when I closed the hatch, so just gonna lift it up where you can see it, push it back into place, and then flip the yellow over it to lock it in place. You turn the lock, it actuates this lever that locks the latch on the hatch. So we're gonna put this damper piece back up in place. It has a tab on this side that goes in the square opening here. Get the wiring harness out of the way, line it up. Capture the bolt. Capture the other two bolts. Tighten these up. Plug this connector back in for license plate lights, and then clip it back into place here. Reinstall the door handle. Put this little control cable underneath like this. A little ball holds it. Our cable did break right here. Shouldn't be too big a deal. We'll leave it, feed it up into place. Put over those studs. Feel it get tight, I'll stop. I don't want to break it out of the plastic in the garnish. Fingers up in here. Get this nut started. Reach up here with the universal joint and socket. Tighten that up. Now we'll retighten the bolts that are holding on the wiper motor. Get this back up in place. I'm going to use the deep socket, 10mm. Go up through the opening and put the nut back on the stud here. Just tighten it up. And this garnish is reinstalled. If the trim clip stayed in the hatch panel, you take a trim clip tool, just put it on here, pop it right out. Do that for all the ones that may have stayed behind. These will just slide back into the panel. Just like that. A couple of ours are missing, not a big deal. There's plenty of these holding it on. This one over here. In fact, I'm going to move this one, since some of these are missing, to over here. Start with the side trim panel. It'll be a little easier to install these first, because the lower trim panel will fit in this groove, and the upper one fits over it here. So the metal clip stayed on this part of the trim, the other two metal clips stayed inside the body. So we'll kind of line them up. Push them in. Give them a good hit. Do the same for the other side. Take our rear lower trim panel. Get it up in place. Push the clips back in. Final trim piece, we'll put this upper one on. It needs to slide over this, and then we'll get pushed into these openings here. So we'll go up with it. In and down. We'll get lined up. Trim panel is installed. I'll reinstall the pull handle. Get the bolt through the metal bracket. 10mm socket. Tighten it. Reinstall the plastic cap. Pull handles reinstalled.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.